Good evening, YouTube. Welcome back to the channel. This is IMAX Sports with another football video, and today I'm going over my Week 7 NFL Power Rankings for the 2022 NFL season. Do this series on the channel every single week, so make sure to tune in next week. Sorry about no video cam today. I am not in my dorm. I forgot my webcam at school, and I also have terrible lighting where I am, so it would not come out great. So let's get right into it. First off, we have the dumpster fire. We have a new team at 32 this week, the Carolina Panthers. The Panthers have been horrendously bad, especially with Baker Mayfield's injury this week. They've just been horrible. 31 is the Bears. They lost the Thursday night football game between the Bears and the Commanders. Washington is also in the dumpster fire this week after beating Chicago. None of these teams have consistent offenses. The Texans, I think, are the only one of these teams that scored 30 points. And Houston's defense is horrible. Not a whole lot to be said here. Moving on, we got the bad teams. We got Detroit, we got the Steelers, and we got the Broncos. The Detroit Lions had one of the highest scoring offenses in the league before they ran into the Patriots' juggernaut of a defense, and they are at 28. The Steelers have jumped above them at 27 after beating the Tampa Bay Buccaneers 20-18. Strong victory for the Steelers after having a 4-game losing streak. And then Broncos at 26. They haven't played yet this week. They are playing tomorrow night against the Chargers. So they could potentially go up with a win, but they'd probably just go into the next category because I don't expect them to win. Their offense has been so inconsistent. But if their defense is a really strong performance, then they might be able to win. Next category, I'm confused. We got the Browns at 25, we got the Jaguars at 24, we got the Cardinals at 23, and we got the Raiders at 22. The Raiders are 1-4. Although they are the highest in this category, even though they have the worst record. All of these teams are extremely inconsistent. All of these teams are inconsistent on offense and on defense. The Jaguars they destroyed the Chargers 30-10, but they haven't had another impressive game the rest of the season. They did beat the Colts, but that doesn't really count because it was in Jacksonville, and the Colts always get demolished in Jacksonville. The Browns, they barely lost to the Jets. They barely lost to Atlanta. They beat the Steelers and the Panthers. And then this week they got demolished by the Patriots. A lot of people are on the Browns bandwagon. I just can't until Deshaun Watson gets here. I just don't see them doing anything, especially considering their only 2 wins are the Steelers and the Panthers. We got the Cardinals at 23. The Cardinals, I thought, had some promise this season. But even as the season's going on, their wins are looking less and less impressive. One of their wins was against the Raiders, who have not looked as good as people thought they're going to be. And the Raiders' only win is a divisional game against the Broncos. All of these teams need some major help, and I really don't know if or when they're going to be getting it. Next up, we got rising and falling. We got the Seahawks at 21. We got the Saints at number 20. We got the Atlanta Falcons at 19. We got the Miami Dolphins at 18. And we got the Los Angeles Rams at 17. I don't usually bring teams down for a loss, but I did with the Rams this week. I don't usually bring teams down with a win, but I did for the Rams this week. The Rams got brought down with their win this week over the Carolina Panthers because other teams moved above them. And a win over the Carolina Panthers when P.J. Tucker is the quarterback is not considered an impressive win in my book. Also, I just reevaluated their schedule, and I had them higher than they should have been the last few weeks. I had them higher because of the Super Bowl, but I reevaluated their schedule, I reevaluated their games, and I think that 17 is the highest I can put them right now. I have the Dolphins at 18. I had them at 18 last week. I put them at 18 because of their injuries, and solely because of their injuries. Once they're healthy again, they'll probably be a top 10 team. But they lost this week to the Minnesota Vikings, and I just kept them at 18 because their injuries are still the same, and they're still the reason why they're losing games. Falcons are 19. They have gone up significantly over the last few weeks. Their offense is starting to click. Their defense isn't horrendously bad. Last week they looked really good against Tampa. This week they were able to get a win. And the Falcons are starting to... The Falcons never really were bad to begin with. They lost week 1 to the Saints by 1 point. They've played a lot of really close games. They lost to the Rams by 3. They lost to Tampa by 5. All of their losses have been against solid teams in really close games. And then they've been able to pull out wins against the Browns. They won this week. They've had a solid season so far. And I think that, especially once Cordell Patterson comes back, the Falcons are going to be a serious team in the NFC playoff race. And we got the Saints at 20, and the Seahawks at 21. The Seahawks are 3-3. The Saints are 2-4. The Saints have the advantage over the Seahawks because of individual matchups. The Saints beat the Seahawks shorthanded. They had a lot of injuries last week. A lot of people went out. They were missing a lot of their wide receivers, and they were still able to put up 39 points in the Seahawks defense. That's why Seattle's in below the Saints, even though they have a better record. Both of these teams have been inconsistent. The Saints have had a lot of injuries. The Saints will be higher once their injuries are resolved, but for right now they're at 20. And Seattle's on the rise, but they've been extremely inconsistent, and I think that 21 is a solid spot for them currently. The next category, we have the strong contenders. We have the Packers at 16, we have the Colts at 15, we have the Patriots at 14, we have the Buccaneers at 13, we have the Titans at 12, and we have the Chargers at 11. Now, against my better judgment, I did put the Packers below the Patriots and the Buccaneers. Now, considering the Packers beat both of those teams, I think that there is a strong argument that the Packers could be at number 14. I think that I had such a hard time ranking the Bucs, the Patriots, the Colts, and the Packers, because the Colts season has been extremely inconsistent, but they're starting to get a little bit better as the season is leveling out, even without Jonathan Taylor. They've had a lot of divisional games so far this season, and that probably has contributed to their ups and downs. The Packers, the Patriots, and the Buccaneers have all had very similar seasons, but the Patriots has been kind of flopped. The Patriots started with a tough schedule that got easier. The Packers and Bucs have had kind of mid schedules, and they've kind of petered out from their, I believe, 2-1 starts. The reason why I have the Patriots and the Buccaneers ahead of the Packers is because they're able to put points on the board more efficiently and more consistently. The Packers' offense the last few weeks has been really bad. And the reason why I think that it's reasonable to have them below both of these teams is because they played Tampa when Tampa was missing their top 4 wide receivers, and they played the Patriots and Lambeau when Bailey Zappi was in his first start of his career. If those weren't the contingencies for the games, then I would have the Packers at 13. But I do believe that those are significant contingencies, and I do believe that the Patriots and Buccaneers have played better football over the last couple of weeks. But none of these teams are looking great right now. The Titans are at 12 and the Chargers are at 11. I think that the Titans have a lot of potential. I think that Derrick Henry obviously is one of the best running backs in the league. I think that their defense is the same defense that we had last year, that strong, tough defense that's going to make you work for every yard. And the Chargers are 3-2. They're looking very strong, and I think that both of these teams are going to be contenders in the AFC for the playoff race. I think that the Titans are the favorites to win their division currently, even though the Colts are right on their tails. And I think that all 6 of these teams are fighting for a playoff spot right now. I think that the AFC playoffs is a little bit tighter than the NFC playoffs right now, especially with the teams that are on this list. And I think that as the season progresses, we're going to see the Chargers and the Titans being a little more consistent than the rest of the teams in this category. Still got to see more. We have the 49ers, the Jets, the Bengals, the Ravens, and the Cowboys. All of these teams are top 10 teams in the NFL. The consistency, again, like the last category, is low, but it's better in consistency. The 49ers lost this week to the Falcons in an impressive win by Atlanta. but they have had a very strong season this year. They beat the Rams, and they've just been a very consistent team. The Jets, until this loss to Atlanta was unexpected, and I did hurt them in the rankings, but I think that the 49ers are a top 10 team currently. The Jets are at 9. This hurts my soul, but I think that putting them any lower than this would be disrespectful. They beat the Packers this week 27-10, and Zach Wilson only had 100 yards. That's pretty much all you need to know. They're also 4-2. Bengals and Ravens are both 3-3. Both of them have beaten the Jets, hence the Jets being at 9. And I think that, again, with the Ravens could be the best team in the league, but their coaching is horrendous, and that's what I think gives them the advantage, because I think that at the end of the day, the Ravens have a better team than the Bengals and the Jets. Their coaching has been horrendously bad, but at the end of the day, the Ravens do have a better team than the Bengals and the Jets. And we have the Cowboys at 6. I believe Dak is coming back next week. I did make jokes that Cooper Rush was the prophet last week. Obviously, this week, that was proven incorrect. I believe that Dak will be coming back next week, and once Dak comes back, that defense, along with Dak Prescott, is going to be lethal, and I think that 6 is a reasonable spot, considering their only losses were week 1, and now this week against the undefeated Eagles. In the NFL's Elite, we have the Giants at 5, we have the Vikings at 4, and we have the Kansas City Chiefs at number 3. The Chiefs lost to the Bills this week to go to 4-2. And the Giants and the Vikings are both 5-1. Kansas City's only 2 losses this year were a loss to the Colts in week 4, I believe, and then a loss to Buffalo this week. The Colts loss was a 3-point game, 20-17. This loss was a 4-point game, 24-20. And it was capped off by a Buffalo interception of Patrick Mahomes on the last drive of the game. The reason why Kansas City is still at number 3 is because of Patrick Mahomes. The fact is, the Kansas City lost Tyreek Hill. Kansas City lost some of their other weapons, like Sammy Watkins. They lost some other, and didn't have Sammy Watkins last year. But Kansas City's offense has been losing players, and their defense hasn't been as consistent this year as it was last year. But the Chiefs are still a 4-2 team. And Patrick Mahomes is still looking like an MVP candidate. And because he's still looking like an MVP candidate, because Travis Kelce got a 4-touchdown game last week, Kansas City just looks like Kansas City still. And if Kansas City's still looking like Kansas City, I can in good conscience put the Vikings or the Giants above them. The Vikings and the Giants are both 5-1. They're both having insanely impressive seasons. The Giants' only loss this year was to the Cowboys. The Vikings' only loss this year was to the Eagles. Those are 2 formidable opponents to lose to, and I think that with the win this week by the Giants over the Ravens, following the win over the Packers, and then the Vikings being able to get a W this week against the Dolphins, even though they are banged up, the Vikings have just they got to 4 early, and they just kind of have stayed there. The Giants have been working their way up from the bottom the whole season. And if it wasn't like that, the Giants would probably be number 4 and the Vikings would probably be number 5. But I don't really like dropping teams and wins unless I reevaluate their schedule and don't think they're really that good. So Giants could be 4, but I have the Vikings at 4 currently. Last but certainly not least, we have the number 1 team in the league, the Buffalo Eagles. This week I couldn't demote the Eagles in a win over the Cowboys. But the Buffalo win over Kansas City really made me reevaluate their schedule. I reevaluated the schedule, and I just realized that they're 5-1 against arguably the toughest schedule so far this season. No team has had a tougher schedule than Buffalo has this year, and they're 5-1. They played the Ravens. They played the Chiefs. They played the... I don't know their whole schedule off the top of my head, but they had, when I looked at it earlier, it was a really tough schedule. And I thought that they both deserve to be number 1 for this week. Next week, if one of them loses, then the other one will be number 1, but I think that they're both going to be number 1 until one of them loses the game. So, thank you guys for watching. Sorry again about the camera. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys all in the next one. Peace.